let's roll.
Thank you, Brenda, for joining me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you. I know you kind of worked with some schedule stuff to get here, so I really appreciate that. To start, just to kind of break the ice a little bit, after a rough day,
Yes.
is there a go-to drink, cocktail?
Oh, I am really a vodka club girl.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm more not a wine drinker.
Okay.
Just bring me the hard stuff. I am in property management.
Yeah, that's right. Lime, anything like that,
Extra
or just
lime.
extra
And
lime?
it like ideally I would like it's like a smart girl Cosmo. So like vodka, club, splash of cranberry, extra
For the
lime.
color.
Yeah. Extra lime. Then I feel fancy.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I feel like I've known you for a while, but like I don't really know you, and so I do my research before we do this, and I don't know that I realized that you were in the Navy.
Yes.
And so I mean, what made you do that? I mean, what?
Oh gosh. Well, I went to college after high school, and then like I chose the #1 party school in the nation. Therefore, it took me 10 years to get my college degree. So
Really, 10?
Yeah, 10.
Nice.
But I dropped out, and then I was like moved back home, and my parents are like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "I'm just gonna go join the Navy," and I literally did it. Like said I was gonna join the Navy, went down, joined the Navy.
Nice.
And then
So what led you from there to property management?
Oh gosh, it took me a long road. So joined the Navy, air crew, P3s, Jacksonville, got married, finished my degree after I got out. Go Navy, they paid for that.
Same.
Yeah, there you go. See. And then I just stayed at home. So became a mom, became a stay-at-home mom. Then I got into corporate training a little bit, and I liked it, but it just seemed like monotonous. It was the same thing over and over again. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to go back. I already have my bachelor's degree. Let me go back and get my teaching credentials. So that's what I did. I went and got my K-6 teaching credentials. And then I started teaching in Clay County. And then, teachers do not make any money. And 15 years ago, they made even less than they make now. So my husband was like, this is not working. So funny story, the person who got me into property management, we could do a whole podcast on this one. Literally, probably the only legit thing this woman did was get me a job as a property manager. So I never was a leasing agent. I was never an assistant manager. Our kids played ball together, and she's like, I think you'd be really good at this. I had no idea what it was. I was like, I am not going to be like a person with a cigarette hanging out my mouth, like knocking on doors asking for rent and carrying a wrench around. That's all I could imagine. Like, I was like, oh no. But she worked for a reputable company. So that #1 was awesome because I didn't start with a slumlord. So I started with a reputable company as a property manager, and I just dedicated like my first year to learn everything I could. I read everything I could read, every book, I went to every seminar. I swear to you, I say to this day, everything I learned on property management, I learned from Harry Heist's legal class.
Nice.
His 8-hour course, I felt like a champ after that one. I was like, this was before the Blue Moon lease came out, but then the Blue Moon lease came out, and I just studied it and learned it, and did pretty well at it. And then that regional manager ended up getting like arrested, in prison for embezzling money, not from my company, but
Oh, wow.
Oh God, it was, yes.
That's outside the industry.
She's no longer in the industry, or to my knowledge, she's no longer in the industry. She like literally like $300,000. It wasn't like chump change.
Oh my God. Well, and so when I started on the sales side, there was a property manager that every week when I'd go see her, she was driving a different sports car. Brand new Corvette, brand new Camaro. Never made sense to me. Literally different car every week. And then one day she's not there. New property manager showing me her mugshot.
Oh my God.
Apparently what she was doing is she was showing units as being down in the software, and then having people pay with money orders. And so they had to walk the property and figure out, and all these units, some have been occupied for more than a year. And they're like, what do you mean? We have a lease. And I'm like, yeah, you kind of don't. Like,
I mean, that's pretty ballsy. I think Yeah, I'm not smart enough to figure that out, but
Well, I mean, at what point too, when there's 50 down units
I
on a
know.
property, you're like, what's going on? Something's not right. Not necessarily that they're being rented out illegally, but like, do we have a maintenance problem? Like, why are all these units down?
I don't know. She got caught because she was saying, she was telling, she would always say, like, she would always work like properties. I've never seen a regional come in and like want to work a Saturday, or always like on the 3rd of the month or the 5th of the month back then, whatever it was. And then she would take these money orders and then they wouldn't be filled out, and then she would just concess off the rent. But she got sloppy and forgot to concess off the rent, and the residents like, no, I paid my rent. And they're like, well, go get a copy of the money order. And she traced it, and sure enough, boom, this lady's name is on it. God. And that was just the beginning. That was one company, and then she went to another company, and that's where she really did the embezzling.
Yeah. Good God.
Yeah, I know.
I wonder, I mean, looking back, is it worth it? I mean, was it worth it? Did you get enough money for what you're dealing with now?
I truly think she was addicted to gambling. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, a mom, married, 3 kids, lives in a nice home, nice neighborhood. So like I said, the one legit thing she did for me was got me into property management, got me a management job. And
I think it's rare that somebody's first experience in the industry is as a manager, not necessarily. I mean, I've seen the assistant, pretty often, but to step in as a manager, I mean, that's...
I agree. I don't know that it would happen today. And like I said, I don't know if it would happen with somebody that was legit or somebody, I don't know if she thought maybe I could be somebody that could... that she could get one by, but I'm pretty analytical and I'm financially sound and I know how to read a P&L, and I don't know, maybe she was hoping that I would be somebody that she could, I don't know.
Oh, maybe, but I doubt it. I mean, I think at that point she probably did see something that, she thought you'd be good, and obviously she wasn't wrong.
No, I think I'm pretty good, so.
So do you find that when you're interviewing other people, for leasing agent or assistant or, property managers, that experience of coming in as property manager first job, does that make you look at these people a little differently and maybe give somebody a chance that somebody else wouldn't?
I think so, and I think I've done it like on a pretty regular basis. My last company, and this girl is now an assistant, we hired her. She was oh my God, she worked at like the front desk of like a fitness center. It wasn't Bailey's, like Lifestyle Fitness. Like she worked at the front desk, but she came in and she was just so charming, and she just seemed like such a go-getter, and she's probably one of the best leasing agents I've had. And maybe now she's been in the industry a little less than a year, and she's already an assistant manager. And I referred her to be an assistant manager. I think she's amazing. And I've hired leasing agents with no assistant manager experience as assistant managers. It's an easy job to teach. I think you have to have a certain tenacity, and if you know the person has a personality and they're smart and they can learn, then you can teach them anything.
That's it.
That just comes later.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
So there was a post recently in one of the groups where somebody was looking for advice. They've interviewed a few times and haven't been able to land the job that they wanted. And I posted something on there. I was like, look, unfortunately, you could be the most qualified person, but it comes down to who's interviewing you and what they're looking for.
Right.
You need to be the most qualified in their mind.
Correct.
And sometimes, you might have somebody that isn't looking for the right things.
Yep.
Or, in your case, is looking outside the box and finding, those things that you can't teach and getting that person and then teaching them the things that we can teach. And now, I believe that's where you find the superstars.
Yeah. And people will say, and I think it goes back to the Navy, I'm not full of rhetoric, so I'm pretty direct. So, and I blame the Navy on it, but it's also a good quality to have. I think everybody knows where I stand. When I'm hiring someone, they're going to be able to, there's certain things that I can't do, and I just need to make sure that the person I'm hiring is going to be able to, that we're going to be able to work together to be a successful team. And that's really important too. So sometimes the most qualified person, I'm like, man, I don't want to hire someone and then they totally hate the industry because they can't, I'm pretty blunt.
Well, that's it, yeah. So, for me, it's that definition of qualified,
correct.
Right? So, to me, that is the most qualified person, the person that has all of those skills.
Exactly.
I always try to picture, like, what if somebody would drop from the sky and be my perfect person, what would they look like?
Yeah.
And then I measure that against whoever we're interviewing. It's, you know, the things that are missing. Can I teach that? You know, how hard would it be to teach that? You kind of run that across your candidates, and I think that's, you know, that's how you find your best. But it's hard to be on the other side of the table, you know, thinking you are the most qualified, and
I know,
you know, without knowing what someone's looking for. I think it's challenging.
And I think sometimes as a manager, you just look leasing, and then you're like, would it be easier to just train somebody new and train them the way that our company does it versus now I've got this experienced person that's going to come in here and like, I don't need somebody telling me how they do it. Like we, you know, I work for a large company and I've always worked for large companies. And so you have to really do it their way. And is it easier for me to maybe hire somebody with not so much experience because it's easier to teach them our corporate way versus nobody wants to hear, this is how I used to do it. This is how I used to do it. We don't do it this way. This is wrong. This is right. So
well, and from what I'm hearing these days too, it's those unteachable skills, the work ethic, those kinds of things that they're not really finding right now in a lot of the candidates, which is interesting. Makes it hard to get a lot of those entry level jobs filled.
Man, I know. I hear ya. No comment.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, there's certain stories that,
like
you know,
I said, not everybody was in the Navy or the military. If you have a military background, you have a pretty strong work ethic. Like I don't call out sick. I just don't. When you were in the military, you basically went to work with 104 fever until they told you to go to medical.
My favorite's like the first week of boot camp. If you still have wisdom teeth, everybody goes and they take them out and here's some Motrin and you're back at work tomorrow.
That's exactly what happened to me as well. And I don't necessarily believe in that, but I'm just saying that's my work ethic. Like I am like, if I'm at work unless I'm dying.
We're talking to my wife this morning about, you know, like people exercising, and it's like, you know, I hate doing that exercise, so I never do it. And it's like, well, you should probably do it. Like the thing that you hate to do is the thing that you should do more. And I think that's life. Is, you know, you can't. Some of the better things in life are harder and they're uncomfortable and you hate doing them. But I mean, you should still do them.
Exactly. Same page.
So we were talking before we started that I deleted my personal TikTok. I don't have it on my phone anymore because it works. I was just sitting there scrolling when I shouldn't be. I still have an account that I post things on, but it's only on my laptop. I don't look at it. But you had commented or said something once about there's TikTok videos out there about like how to negotiate rent increases and things like that. I haven't seen these.
So I'm new to TikTok. I have 3 kids. 23, 21, 18. So they're all into TikTok. But so this whole TikTok, I have not been watching TikToks. Like they would text them to me because I didn't have, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to set up a TikTok account. Probably the worst thing I've done, because every night before I go to bed, I probably spend an hour scrolling. Like I'm like,
well, and they say that's the worst time to do it, because if you think the algorithm's designed to keep you going, and if you're trying to go to sleep, it's trying to keep you scrolling. It's counterintuitive.
But I love it. I don't know. It's so addictive. But now that my algorithm is pretty much set up, dogs, children's stories, husband stories, and property management stories. So, it is crazy what people say on TikTok. It's like negotiate your rent like it's a used car lot. And I'm like, if only it were that simple. And I feel really kind of sad for these people. And you want to comment, but you're like, what am I going to say? Really, it's going to get lost in the 1,500 comments. How to negotiate your renewal rate, how to bring them back. And I've seen it. So as you know, in Jacksonville, rents are pretty much skyrocketing, and I'm in luxury, and we are seeing ridiculously, embarrassingly high lease renewals that you're kind of like, you want to cower when you give it to someone. So some of these people are upwards 25, 30% increases. So I had this one guy, and I'm like, oh God, you saw this on TikTok. They have these apps on that you can download that basically tells you what you should be paying in rent. So you type in your address and it's like, this is what you should pay. So he's screenshotting all this to me, texting me, and it's like Rentometer, like you're above. Then he's got Zillow going and all this stuff trying to negotiate his renewal increase. And I'm like, they're so disappointed when you tell them,
it's not negotiable.
They want to talk to the owner, and I'm like, do you really think I'm sitting here in this desk saying I'm coming up with these rates. I'm not. They're being passed down to me from the owner. The owner.
Well, and there's a lot of times it's an ownership group. It's not one owner,
well, that's what
but
we
that's
are.
their
It's
mentality.
a group, and you have an asset manager, and that's what we're doing. He's the one that gave me these rates, and I've already questioned him, and he already told me to get on board. So,
well, and here's my challenge to you is, I mean, you did that research. You think you can get that rate somewhere? Go find that rate somewhere.
And that's what we do.
I mean, you probably can't. That rate probably doesn't exist somewhere.
And and you're in the largest apartment in the building. You've got the best views. You've got the one that there is literally a wait list for, because it is the most attractive apartment floor plan in the whole building. And I'm like, but you're still, I wouldn't want to see a 30% increase. And his wasn't even 30%. Let's say his was like 18%, but that's still ridiculously high when you're already paying $2,800 a month in rent. That's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, but I mean,
but we do use it. We're like, you're in the best unit, and if you don't want to pay this, we can put you into I can get you into a floor plan in your price range. Yeah. And if you don't like that, I implore you to go around and look at these other communities, and let me pull up the market survey for you, because I've already priced them all out, and you can see where you're going to fall in line. And they actually renewed.
Well, and I mean, I go back to my days of living in apartments when I was in the Navy, before I knew anything about the industry. And I mean, you just don't understand. I mean, it's part of just life. A lot of these renters are younger, and so they haven't been through this sort of thing. They just don't get it. And in some cases, they just don't understand that there isn't one owner that's just counting his hundreds and raising the rent. I mean, the house across the street from us just got listed on the market today for sale. The houses are like 4 years old, and I think they listed it for like $300,000 more than they bought it for.
I know.
I mean,
Lucky them.
It's Florida. It's all real estate.
Yeah.
It's not just the rental market. It doesn't help that there's not enough apartments to rent, but I mean, it's not some owner trying to make more money just to make money. I mean, it's cost of everything are going up.
I agree. And not only that, like, my specific owners just bought the property they bought it in the height of the market. So now they're, everybody's in it to make money. Nobody's in this because they're just nice. I mean, maybe somebody is, but companies are not buying properties to, just be nice. So the goal is to make money and provide, in my case, a good quality place to live. So we are spending millions in upgrades. But even without the upgrades, because you hear a lot of people, well, they're not doing anything. But I'm like, everything. Like, my landscaping contract, they just put a fuel surcharge on it. So now is it a ton of money? No, but or year over year it is going to be. But they didn't ask me. They just put the increase on, and I have to pay it. Or, you're done with your 12-month contract, and all of a sudden that's gone up. Mm-hmm. Or, I just ordered doors from Lee & Kate's, access control doors, 4 months. I'm waiting 4 months. It's just and you're paying more because there's just supply chain issues, there's manufacturing issues, everything's going up, but nobody wants to believe it.
Well, and so you mentioned, it's not easy to deliver some of these increases too, that, sit down with a resident and have to explain that they're getting this increase, especially, some of these senior properties where people aren't fixed incomes. I was at the Florida Apartment Association like 2 weeks ago, and they had a panel. And one of the things that came up in that panel was the challenge of delivering some of those and the toll it takes on some of these leasing agents and assistants and the property managers, because you guys have bonds with these residents.
Right.
I mean, especially those that have been there for a long time. They're almost like friends. And, you deliver that increase. Some of them, they're sitting there crying.
I know.
One of the things that came out that seemed interesting is that I think 2 of the 3 companies that are up there have dedicated teams to deliver and deal with those renewals. And you think about, like, when you call Comcast to cancel, they pass you to the retention team.
Right.
And those are people with a special skill set, a special way of having that conversation. They have kind of some of the common objections and questions, written down, so they have like a script they can go off of. It seemed like a good idea that, you have somebody that maybe just naturally has a little bit thicker skin or doesn't have that personal connection, so that they're not taking this home. So I think there are some, leasing agents that are delivering these renewals and they're going home sad and upset. And, it's taking it seemed like an interesting concept to have either like one person in the office dedicated to deliver all the renewals and give them a little extra training, or, find somebody with the right personality for it, or at the corporate level have like a retention team and, they deliver, because we do everything electronic now anyways.
Yes. We do. And we don't have a dedicated team. I'm not opposed to that. I'm wondering how receptive the residents would be to that, because I feel like they are like, I'm not calling this 1-800 number. I need to go talk to Tammy in the office right now.
That's it. You get a stranger.
Right. So, I mean, hey, it's worth a shot. I don't normally allow my leasing agents to deliver bad news, because I think there always needs to be, my goal with the leasing agent is to always have a friendly face in the office. You're trying to sell the community. I don't want that leasing agent to, feel down or beat down, and then you have to go, the tour comes in right after that, and then you have to go turn it on and sell an apartment. Mm-hmm. Some leasing agents are better at it than others. I currently have a really strong leasing agent right now that I think she's fine doing both, but I do agree that you do have to have people in the office dedicated to that, and unfortunately that usually falls to the assistant. But I also agree that some of these people that run out at 5 o'clock on a Friday shoving these notices on doors, that is not the way to do it. I mean, that is just not fair to anybody.
Yeah.
So we always try to do them the beginning of the week, midday, gives people time to process it. Not only that, we do send them out electronically, so they probably, when they're at work, they can check their email and see their renewal rates before they even get to their door and see the notice on their door. But I like to do it when we're in the office, so when they see it, they don't have to stew over it overnight until they can get a hold of somebody, or the entire weekend, or bring it out on the leasing team on Saturday or Sunday.
That's it. Yeah, you get that thing at 5 o'clock on a Friday, then you're writing all over Facebook and Google reviews.
Exactly, and I am not for that. I think you need to do your resident right. So we try to do them early in the week, mid-afternoon.
Yeah, that's cool. I thought it was a cool concept. I wonder if it catches on, or it's just because renewals were a pretty easy conversation before, and it's a whole different conversation now.
I could see it catching on. I'm just saying I don't know how it would, what's the leasing team what's the office are they gonna say, no, we can't talk to renewals, you have to call this number? I guess I would need more information. Yeah. My last company did have a team, when their resident complains and they wanted to go above, you gave them this number, and this poor lady, she did it willingly. It was her job, and she was really good at it. Yeah. That was her full-time job. And it wasn't just one property. She was the customer complaint person for the entire company.
Yeah, no.
But I think it did help with reputation management, because there was always somebody there to listen to the concern, to empathize with the concern. And concerns and complaints were being addressed. They weren't going to a voicemail at some corporate number that, the mailbox gets checked once a month. So I do think that worked.
Yeah, so. I mean, there's was it Jocko's? Well, do you read any of his books? No. He's a former Navy SEAL. He does all these like leadership books and stuff, and his whole thing is good. Like when something bad happens, good, because it's an opportunity to do something. And so that resident complaint comes in, good, because now this is my opportunity to turn that around, to fix it, to make it right. And you turn that bad experience into a positive one.
That's really a positive way to look at it.
Yeah, look, I don't have the skill set for that job.
I was like,
I am not the complaint department.
If that only happened once a day, it would be awesome. That's a skill set, is doing that multiple times throughout the day.
Well, and especially with rents going up too. Yeah. It's funny that that renewal increase comes out, and all of a sudden there's a lot of work order, broken things, complaints, or if you serve somebody with they get a noise complaint from another resident, suddenly they've got a complaint about somebody else. It's
never ending. And I think our struggle on the luxury A side is our residents can afford to move. They're not like a B class, maybe even a C class. You may be holding them to those renewals, but the struggle on the luxury properties is our residents can't afford to move. And if they don't want to pay the rent, they're going to go buy a house, and they can afford to buy the house, or they can afford to pay the term fees. And that's our struggle. So we do have to balance it really with trying to giving the best value and being receptive to the complaints.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anna. Because when you deal with people who make a lot of money, they're choosing to live at your apartment community, and they're making a choice not to purchase a house or not to go live in another luxury apartment community. And the first time you make them mad, they will flip on you.
So, do you think there's benefit in renewal gifts at this point? I know back in the day we did the carpet clean, but most places don't have that much carpet. And I mean, let's face it, we really just did that in hopes of saving the carpet when they moved out.
I'm all for, I like a good renewal gift, and I'm not, so obviously I'm into alcohol, but I like giving a good bottle of champagne or red wine or white wine, even if it's branded, or sparkling cider, apple juice or whatever for non-drinkers. Or I think probably most owners would see it as they want to put it back into the unit. And that does get harder when you're at a higher end unit. Like, we don't do accent walls. Like, I don't know. I'm personally not into accent walls. Or a USB port. Well, we already have USB ports in every single room. Or a ceiling fan. Well, we already have that. Or paint your door. Well, we already keep the front doors painted because we're high end. I think there lies the struggle on what are you going to do. But I'm even for like buying a gift card to a nice restaurant, or and it's not so much as a renewal gift, it's more just of an appreciation, thank you. And I do think it goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of the tech side of it. So, I mean, like you said, at this point, at least in this market, you know, it used to be, you can have a ceiling fan because there was only one in the master bedroom. But, like, they all have them these days. And we've seen a lot of the tech kind of gifts. And, I mean, again, like you said, the USB port is pretty common now.
Yeah.
But you're seeing, like, the smart outlets, the smart switch, or, here's the Alexa Dot, or, one of those, or the smart thermostat, or those sorts of things. But at the same time, too, I mean, that only works for some residents. You give that stuff to the wrong resident, you just generated a whole lot of work orders.
Correct.
Because they don't know how to use it.
I know. And then what we're seeing in more high-end communities, they already come with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, we're already paying for a service for residents to have the smart thermostats and so, I mean, yes, and not every community is a luxury apartment community. And I use smart plugs at my own home, so I'm all for it. And I'm all for, like, even moving gifts, an Alexa Dot or Echo or whatever they're called. My daughter's name is Alexa, so that's a funny story. I had to change ours. We can't call it Alexa anymore. Ours is called Echo.
I didn't know you could change what you say to it.
Yeah. I mean,
is there options, or can you name it anything?
Yeah, you can name it anything. So, because it was so, we've had ours for years, but our daughter, we call her Lexi, but there are times that now she's at college, so she's not in the house, but we'd be like, Alexa, and then the machines, the little things coming on. I didn't understand that. And you're like, so funny. It was real quick. We figured that one out real quick to change the name, but ours is named Echo now.
I'm going to spend the rest of the day thinking of a fun name, and I'm going to go home and rename mine.
But I do like a smart outlet. Works on the lights. But yeah, I do, like I said, and everything can be budget friendly. You don't have to spend, like I said, a bottle of champagne's $15. You don't have to spend, I don't think you have to spend $100, $200, $300 on renewal gifts. I have worked for a company in the past that did tiered, like, so you lived there 1 year, maybe your gift was equivalent to $25. You lived there 2 years, maybe it was worth $50. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen that before, stuff like that, or even just like a basket of goodies and stuff. Or I've seen the basket as a move-in.
Yes.
One of the cool things I saw with that was like a little $5 plunger. Because there's so many work orders for customers that my toilet's clogged. Well, use your plunger. Well, I don't have a plunger.
I know, and even in the high-end apartment communities,
So yeah, I mean,
I would be so embarrassed to put in a work order on I clog my toilet. I'm not gonna lie. I would probably leave the clogged toilet, run to Walgreens, buy a plunger, and unplug it myself. I don't think I could do it. I would be humiliated.
So my last property, someone sort of took that method. They had 2 bathrooms, one toilet got clogged, so they left it, and then like 6 months later, they clogged the other one, and so we got a work order for both clogged toilets. Oh yeah,
what I'm saying, how can you not go buy a $5? But I'm talking even. It's not just lower. I mean, I've worked them all.
Yeah,
I've worked $400 rents all the way up to $3,000 rents, and it's the same. Nobody has plungers.
Yeah, and so we would buy them by the case. It was like a little wooden stick and the cheap
roll
red
of toilet paper
plunger
over it?
and that paper towels. They put a roll of paper towels on it, and it was a welcome to your apartment
Oh, my
move-in
God.
basket. There was like a sponge and a little thing of dish
Yeah.
soap and some snacks and. But the idea was,
Yes.
here's a plunger.
Yes.
You're a grown up.
Yes.
You live on your own. You should
Right.
know and how to own and know how to use a plunger.
I know. We do move-in. I'll tell you what's in our move-in gifts. So we buy boxes from Amazon. So they're like little, 16 inches boxes with a lid. We have branded stickers. We have branded merchandise. We have branded towels. Maybe it's not always a towel, but right now it's like pool towels, beach towels. They're
wow.
big. And then we always ask at move-in, on the move-in sheet, what do you prefer? Do you red, white, champagne, or sparkling cider? We give a bottle of that, and that is not branded. And then just branded lip glosses, pop sockets, things like that are branded mints.
I like
And
the
then
questionnaire. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And then that way you're not because I've heard in the past, oh, well, what do you do for an alcoholic? And I'm like, I've never had somebody tell me they're an alcoholic. But, and I will tell you, probably out of the last 100 move-ins, we've probably had 2 that say sparkling cider.
Yeah.
Or minors. They always pick champagne, though. You have to look at those IDs. Oh, no.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to photocopy the ID, right, as part of the packet, so just verify that.
So we just verify the age. But yeah, I mean, a good move-in gift doesn't have to be a lot of money. You hear of people do pasta bowls and go to the Dollar Tree and find a bunch of little items. But I think it's nice to walk into a non-vacant apartment. You're like, here's your home. And just like when you buy a house, you get a little thing when you buy a house. You know, if you've ever bought new construction, they give you the little basket with the lunch bag and the
you get
waters.
Something.
Yeah.
I think the last one we did, we got a gift card to a restaurant, which is, we weren't even expecting it.
I know.
So that's the thing, to not be expecting it and then have it. It doesn't need to be anything super fancy.
Right.
I think it can be budget friendly. Buy all that stuff in bulk wherever you want.
Exactly.
Really. So I've been toying around with a new idea. I've had people on that have stories that they didn't want to share because they were afraid of it being traced back to the property or the resident or whatever. And so we had someone that always used that whole asking for a friend is a thing. So I'm thinking we call it asking for a friend, and I give you a scenario and you give my friend some advice.
Yes.
And so the first one that I have is your luxury community. You know, lots of amenities.
Yep.
One of those amenities is a movie theater.
Okay.
You're showing a new prospect middle of the day during the week. You walk in the movie theater, and there's a whole bunch of residents in there, not dressed, having relations. What do you do? I mean, you got an issue going on in the movie theater, but you also have a prospect with you. That is your prospect lost at that point? Are you pretty sure they're not going to rent?
I'm pretty sure they're not
Are you
gonna rent.
concerned if they do rent on the spot?
So when I get embarrassed, I would shut down. I would literally, they wouldn't lease because I would shut down. And when I get embarrassed on a tour for anything, it could be anything. That's why I walk, even where I'm at, I walk units before I walk them. Because, I've worked at communities where you go to show and there's a dang roach on the floor. I mean, that or the closet door's off, or you're like, what happened? I have to walk it every single day before I show a unit. And even as a property manager, I walk my units before I show. I shut down. Literally, even if there was, we will have to, we have the Australian, no, don't call them Australian. So I did find out New Zealanders are very offended if you call them Australians. You call them Kiwis. So I found that out. My poor leasing agent, they about ripped her a new one. They're here and they're partying. They had a DJ at the dang pool. You go on a tour, I shut down. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, so, I continue the tour, and I'm basically on autopilot. They have to ask their own questions, and I just write it off as a loss.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get to a point where, especially in that scenario, I wouldn't rent there at that point, but, I mean...
I would die, and I'm going to tell you, so my last apartment community was all interior hallways. And there was more than one time that we have walked the hallway and heard, not witnessed, but heard, I mean, it's got to be sex. I mean, I don't know what else it could be. I would die if I was with the prospect. Fortunately, that's never happened. So I would just tell your friend, if I were your friend's boss, I would just chalk it up. I would probably go buy that person a drink afterwards.
Yeah,
and we would laugh about it forever, and I'd tell every person I know.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's one of those stories. It just kind of is what it is. I mean, I don't know there's anything you can do about it. And hopefully it doesn't happen often. Hopefully it's like a once in a career kind of thing.
I wish that I would have enough foresight to like whip out my cell phone and like take so I could nail whoever it was in there, but I probably wouldn't be that quick, and I would probably be racing back to the office to pull camera footage, because who doesn't like to pull camera footage? That's like the best part of the job, pulling camera.
Oh yeah, especially when they're in denial.
Yes.
God, the first property I worked at had a basketball court, indoor basketball court. We were one of the last ones on that side of town to not remodel it. But we would padlock it at night when we go home. And so we came in the next morning, and they had like busted the door apart and like broken through the window to get in to play a game. And so we're rolling back the camera footage, and the door is just out of the camera shop, but you had to get through the fitness center to get to the door. And you see this resident that we all recognize come in, he goes over to the door, he leaves. We're like, okay, well, it's not him. And then like 10 minutes later, he comes back with a basketball. And I'm like, hold on. I was like, so you came to the gym, the door was locked, and you thought I should go home and get a basketball. I mean, so we ended up calling him down and, you know, having that, just kind of asking him, I mean, do you know what happened? Did you have anything to do with it? Oh, no. And then so we showed him the footage. I'm like, so why would you go and get on? Well, someone else came. I let him in through the back door, and they did it all, and then we played. Okay.
It's the best. The cameras are the best.
Yeah, I used to love it.
And we watch them for pure entertainment. I mean, the stuff that, the amount of people that forget, and my last apartment community had a hot tub, and it had a camera right above that hot tub. And the amount of people that forget that you have a camera, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, we had a hearing impaired courtesy officer at one of our properties, and so he wore hearing aids.
Okay.
And with the hearing aids, he was fine, but at night he would take them off, and his apartment backed up to the hot tub. And so there was stuff going on in the hot tub one night that was so loud that it woke up the deaf police officer to come out. So he basically came out and told them that. He's like, look, I am deaf. My hearing aids are out. If you woke me up, somebody's going to jail.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's going.
Yeah. That's insane. I know. We could do a whole segment on stories.
Well, and that's, I mean, yeah. So I like, excuses for not paying rent, right? Have you ever got a crazy excuse for someone not or being late on rent?
Right now, well, we get the same old. I mean,
well, of course now it's COVID.
Yeah.
But,
oh God.
Don't
even. I actually fared pretty well during COVID. I did have, fortunately, only 2 people in the height of COVID that didn't pay rent. But I worked, my ownership group, there was no eviction, so it didn't matter if you could evict in Florida. Yeah. They were like, no, we are not getting on the news. Like, we're not doing it. Write it out. Those people went to work every day.
Yeah.
So I have I don't know. What I do see is people that can't pay their rent. And I don't know, and you're going to see on the Facebook groups, people like stick for them all the time, but I'm like, the amount of shopping these people do. Like, it blows, and I'm not talking just, I'm talking Instacart deliveries, I am talking major purchases, and they're like, we just had a guy right now, like last month, I can't pay my rent because I had to throw my daughter a birthday party. Did you? I mean, and I would do whatever I could for my kids too, but I'm not going to be homeless.
Yeah.
Not. I mean, and when you've got little kids, they don't know the difference between a $20 gift and a $200 gift. I mean, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some sense there. But what about work orders, right? I've seen one of my favorite crazy work orders was, and I think I've told this one before, but it's the older lady that put in a work order for her bone crusher being broken. And
oh my God.
It turns out her garbage disposal was clogged.
Garbage disposals are the bane of my existence. And I really like the ones that are honest. Like, I drop something down it and I can't get it out. And I'm like, I always say I'm going to charge people, but we never do. I had one before that wanted us to clean her ceiling fans. I think I told you this story already. So I had he was it was a male, but he was kind of like me. He was not a lot of fluff in his answers. And she's like, I want to put in a work order. I want you guys to clean my ceiling fans. They're dusty. And he's like, well, we don't really do that. Just dust in your apartment, dust in your home is just your dead skin cells anyways. That woman, I thought I think I probably did have to go buy her a gift card to like 20 here. I am so sorry for the brutal honesty of my leasing agent.
It's one of my favorite lines that I could never use is that, we had like residents move in, complain of the texture on their wall wasn't even. It's like, you are a perfect candidate to be a homeowner.
Exactly.
But like, you can't ever say that. Like, what you want to say and what you can say are two different things.
Just do like my dryer's not drying and you go in there and it's like just lint. Or it's just sometimes you're just like, really? I worked at a connected community before where they had to have our cable provider, and it was internet cable, and it was like you could upgrade your package so you weren't limited, but my TV's not working. We would get those all the time, and maybe they're not dumb because in their mind they're paying me for but I'm like, you have to call the service provider. I'm not going up there and troubleshooting your TV.
A lot of it is that lack of understanding of
I just had one, again, I could go on. So we did a Bagels and Mimosa event 2 weeks ago. I came in to help out because it was on a Saturday, and a lady comes in. She's like, oh my God, somebody's just thrown up in the hallway. And I'm like, I can hear the leasing agent looking at her and not getting an answer. And I'm peeking around the corner and I'm like, well, where is it? Where is this mess, right? And she's telling us where it's at. She's looking at the leasing agent. She goes, you don't look like you want to do it. I'll do it. I do this stuff for a living. And I wanted to say to her, of course we don't want to do it. Apologies to the grossness on our face. Okay, that's disgusting. I'm going to throw up in the hallway, not tell anyone, and leave, and we're not allowed to be grossed out? Yeah. That's just nasty. Yeah. So no, we don't. So excuse our faces. I'm not saying we're not doing it. We are going to go take care of it. But holy cow, cut us some slack. We're human too. Yeah. Just because we will be happy to go clean up that puke.
That's it. You got a hard enough time when it's like your own kid that throws up somewhere.
Yeah,
and now it's some stranger.
Are we not allowed to be like have the same facial expression as you? Like, yes, we acknowledge it's disgusting.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. You do want to do it? Is that what you're saying here?
I passive aggressiveness. Just love it. I'm like, you don't want to do it, or you would have done it and not told me.
Yeah. Throughout your career, obviously you've been a couple different properties, a couple different management companies. Is there any advice you received along the way at any point that you would want to pass on?
This person will know that she said this to me, but she did say to me, are you willing to take a bullet for this person, as in my employees? So anytime that I'm ready to stick up for my employees, that's why I am hard, but I think of all maybe the exception of one or two, my employee, I'm pretty fair, I'm pretty knowledgeable, I'm good at training, but they will tell you that if I have faith in you, I will move mountains for you. Like, I am with you 100% of the time. Like, if you're not leasing, I've got your back. It's not because it's you, it's something else. Like, I think it's important, are you willing to take a bullet for this person? And then I do think that you should back it up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the difference between leadership and management.
Yeah. I love my people, and I think it's important to take a bullet for your employees.
Absolutely.
If they're there and they're showing up and they're part of your team, and not every employee you are going to take one, but if you are, then walk the walk.
Yeah.
And then probably a piece of advice that I would just give out is, not every person you work with you're going to like. I've worked with people that I don't know how I've done it, and I'm sure people can say the same for me, but use that and grow from it. And instead of complaining about it, use that as an opportunity of, well, when I get in this position or this role, I'm not going to do that. Like, hopefully, I know we all forget, but I'm not I don't want to do this, and I'm going to remember how it feels. I have an old boss years ago, and my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, or kidney cancer first, then breast cancer, but stage 4 kidney cancer. And even though I had FMLA, but I was like, I have to leave right now, and I have to go. My mom's having tumors on her spine, so we have to go. She's having emergency surgery. And this boss was like, at the time, just go, take your computer and go and mark, your PTO if you're not working, and then if you're working, just don't, you're working, right? So just go. And I'll never forget that. She was so compassionate, and I want to be that type. And sometimes I do forget, but I like to remember that. And in fact, this was so long ago, but I just texted her. I'm like, I really remember you doing that for me, and it meant a lot. And I want to be that type of person too, to just show compassion.
Yeah, I mean, again, the difference between leadership and management, it's your job as a leader is to take care of your people.
Yep.
I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I have another.
Okay.
Asking for.
Okay, cool. I like these.
I have one more. I need to get more of these.
That one was like, I'll have a bunch.
So on this one, this is one I saw posted a while back, and I'm kind of hanging on to it, not really knowing what to do with it, because it caught me off guard. And,
oh God,
and
it's gonna catch me off guard.
Hopefully it's not normal, but I mean, I don't know, maybe it is. Do we live in an interesting world these days? And so, my friend was, they were doing the air filter change on property, going in every unit, and they went into one unit, and there was a litter box in the middle of the room. So they sent the notice for an unauthorized pet, because there was no animals on the lease, and come to find out that resident identifies as a cat and uses the litter box.
Yeah, I would that.
What do you do? I mean,
I'm gonna lose my.
Is it still an unauthorized pet? Is it? I mean,
yeah, you are now the unauthorized pet. Yeah. I mean, we know of he, she, them, they. I don't know that we have cat yet. So I'm gonna take a hard. That is disgusting. I would probably die. Yeah, you're gonna have to pay the pet fee on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think, because I mean, these boxes are small. You're going to miss the box, and then you got the same problem that we have with any pet in the unit.
Didn't you see that segment? They made a TikTok about the lady on the plane, and she's like, "I'm breastfeeding my baby," and the guy sitting next to her is like, "That's not a baby." I don't know what it was, a dog or cat. God. You guys don't know what I'm talking about, and hopefully you got to look it up. No. And it's covered, and I'm like, is this staged? But it's real. She's like, this is my baby. And the flight's attendant's coming by, and the guy's like arguing. He's like, it's a cat. Or I think it was a cat, but dude, it could have been a monkey. I don't know what it was, but she's like, are you telling me right now you're going to make me uncover this? And I think they escorted her off the plane.
Yeah.
It was just hysterical. I'm like...
Well, and that's a whole nother... So, I mean, our industry, the office staff, you guys have been through so much with the pandemic. I think right up there with it is the flight attendants.
Yes.
Trying to deal with... There's been so much craziness on planes. And, I mean, honestly, I think that's why they got rid of the mask mandate on the planes as fast as they did, just so that flight attendants would stop getting in these altercations. I mean, it was...
I feel for them, too. I do feel for them. And, not, multifamily housing, you can lock the leasing office, call the police, but what are you going to do? You're stuck on a plane.
Yeah.
Eeks.
You're locked
at 30,000 feet.
That's right. Well, Mike Tyson, right? Just punch somebody on a plane.
He got off on that. I don't blame him, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that was probably instigated, but still, I mean, it's, God, I don't know.
That guy can always, his whole life, though, I got punched in the face by Mike Tyson.
Well, that's probably what he was going for, but then you got to wonder, too, is there an air marshal on that plane that, he's like, oh, man, he's messing with Mike Tyson. I'm not getting involved.
Right, I know.
I don't know. Favorite part of the job?
Oh, favorite part, I love that not every 2 days are the same. I love that in my position, if I don't want to deal with residents, I can work on my financials or reporting. Or go walk the property. If I need sun, I need to get out of the office, I can go walk units. I love the flexibility. I do like the camaraderie that we all share. This industry is so quirky, and I think our friendships are just, we're all in it together. But in this industry, I really think we are. And I think we can all, if I tell you a story, I know you've got one similar, or you've got one to one up me, but you know what I'm going through. And I don't think in every industry you have that.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love, of course I love my residents, and I love making them happy. And I really love it all. There isn't really one aspect of it. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on, I think, property managers right now, and on-site teams, and that's not always a great feeling to have, but I love that we really are our own little corporations on site. We can, if you work for a good owner and a good group, you have flexibility to, kind of come up with your own ideas, and it's an awesome feeling to have that.
I think one of the things that gets overlooked a lot is how much we care about the residents.
Yeah.
And, there's so many of them that we actually have connections with. And at the last board meeting, you were telling me that you had a resident that, texted you about taking their dog out. I'm like, man, that's crazy. I can't believe they would do that.
I did it.
Well,
I have
said,
that scar on me to prove it.
And then I was like, yeah, there's no way I would do that. And you're like, yeah, so I was walking the dog. I'm like, oh my God, you did it.
I know. Well, it's hard when... And I do care about my residents. So she's like, oh my God, my dog walker couldn't get into the building. Can you please go walk my little sweet little Frenchie? Yes, it was a Frenchie, and that Frenchie pulled me down. So I did it, and I did it with a smile on my face. And of course, when I fell, it was down a hill on pavers, just to put it out there. There was a group of people coming from the pool, so they all witnessed me falling. But yeah, I did it, and I would do it again.
Well, and I think there's a lot of that. I think a lot of people go above and beyond for residents in those sorts of ways, or hey, we just head out of town. I don't think I might have left my oven on or something like that. It's,
Yeah, and I think that's a benefit of living in an apartment, and I think that's why people want to live, why they choose multifamily housing, not because it's less expensive or all the amenities, but we are there for them. And believe me, I forget too sometimes that I'm coming to work because of them. I mean, we all forget it, but in the I had a prospect yesterday call me. She's like, oh my God, I'm sorry I keep calling. And I'm like, why? You don't have to apologize. We're here till 6. If you're not calling somebody else, I keep hitting this.
Yeah.
That's what we do for a living. That's our job. We're here to, whatever questions, keep calling.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Any other stories that come to mind, or anything you wish I'd brought up?
You could do an entire podcast, maybe put out a letter to anonymous funny stories that you witnessed. I could write a book.
Yeah, I mean,
I could write a book.
I think, for those stories that people didn't want to share.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to still kind of get them out there a little bit.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. At first I was like, we'll call it here's your,
I love it.
Here's your 7-day or something like that, or is it the 7 days the one that you get when
not doing something
fix
right.
it or get out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but then, I wouldn't want, we talk about trying not to harm the industry, so I wouldn't want one of those stories to catch on and then, they're joking about evicting people. I mean, I certainly wouldn't do that. So
hope that, I'm assuming most people listening to this podcast are all industry professionals, but if there happen to be people out there that aren't industry professionals, I do think we as a whole, as a group, care about our residents, and we're not trying to evict everyone. We are compassionate. We do go home and cry sometimes and are sad and hate doing the things that we have to do and enforcing policies. We're not just evil people sitting on a throne passing down judgment. Most of us have families, and a lot of us have dealt with the same things that our residents are dealing with, and we are human, and it is a part of the job, but I don't think the policies that are being passed down are because we are trying to be mean.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't think so.
No.
I just hope that, and not everything that you see in the news is truthful.
Well, it's
hard, but I'm telling you, do a little bit of research and you're going to find out that that's not, there's two sides to every story and then the truth. So, and you're usually only hearing one side of the story when it's coming out in the media, and it's not, it's all geared to make one side look really bad, and every time I hear those stories, I'm like, oh, I already know the other side, and I'm going to tell you what really happened.
Yeah, no, but the other side's not fun. Nobody wants to hear the other
I
side.
know, and we can't really defend ourselves, because if we defend ourselves, and I don't blame it, we look like big, bad corporate America. So I get it.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Well, look, I appreciate you sitting down with me.
right.
I really do.
I hope I entertained.
I think we did good. I think there's some good entertainment value in there. I think there's
right.
some good advice in there. So thank you, Brenda.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Glad to be here.